Once upon a time, there lived a man called Eka. In that village where Eka was born, there was a man called Ufe. Ufe was the father of Eka, and because Ufe had a father who believed in appeasing the gods to for everything that happened, Eka was the only child born out of menopause because his parents had lost so many children and did not know what to do. Each time the mother had, takes in, the baby died. So Ufe decided to go to appease the gods of his father so that Eka can be alive. So when the mother took in for Eka, it looked as though it was not pregnancy. People began to mock the mother. Even when she went to the farm, she went to the stream, people began to mock the mother, saying that that is not pregnancy until she gave birth to Eka. Now, in order not to, have Eka die like the other children did, Ufe decided to pray hard to their gods to keep Eka alive. And in the process, because Ufe had a family god, which was a snake, it became from generation to generation, to the point that even when Ufe decided to stand on his own, staying away from those snakes and all of that, it still became a problem. At some point, Ufe no longer appeased the gods, which was a snake. Eka grew up, finished primary school, finished secondary school, and got married. Because Eka did not go to a university, he did not go to secondary school rather, he wrote the popular examination then in their village, and decided to go sit for the GCE and went to write JAM, and that was how Eka went to the university. Remember that because Eka did not go to secondary school, it was the GCE that helped Eka to secure admission in the university. Eka started a family, but one of the things Eka battled with was the snake issue. Everywhere Eka lived, there was always a snake. Everywhere Eka's children lived, there was always a snake trying to come into either the house or within the environment. But one thing the snake never did was to attack anybody. It never attacked anybody. So one of these days, it kept going on, and then Eka died. Ufe, the father, had died long time ago. Eka's mother suffered a hunger strike and died out of pain from what Eka was going through. That went on until when Eka eventually had his children and died at a very, very young age. That brought about so many setbacks for his children. Eka and his children were very close. But the villagers who understood that because Eka has refused to appease the gods, which is the snake, the big villagers began to tell the children of Eka to start doing something about their god, which was the snake. But because the children believed in God, they have joined Christianity, and they now believed in God, and they could not appease their god, the god with the small g. So that brought so many setbacks for Eka's children. They grew up, they tried everything to become great. It didn't work. Eka's son had tried everything, it didn't work. Two of Eka's children decided to travel out of the country. They tried and tried. While they were there, they began to struggle. They struggled even while they went there. Even in a land where there's plenty for everybody, Eka's children suffered. They struggled just because they did not want to appease that god. Will we now say Eka's children would have appeased the gods or not? Eka's children refused to appease the gods. So one of the days, Eka's children, two of them, sat in a very big church congregation, And then one minister, an invited guest, began to talk to the congregation, and they're talking on generational causes, generational limitation, and the kind of things children inherit from parents that they knew nothing about. They need to break it. They need to do a family prayer to break it. Some of Eka's children took it seriously, the others refused to take it seriously. That brought about Eka's daughters getting married, and their husbands began to suffer the same fate of what Eka's sons were suffering. Now his son-in-laws began to suffer the same fate. No matter what they did, nothing worked out. One day, Eka's son-in-law, one of the son-in-laws, stood in the gap, because one of his senior son-in-laws has always prayed against those things, mentioning every generational curses. So Eka's son-in-law, the second son-in-law, decided to take the matter seriously, prayed fervently, and those curses began to break. And now it became so bad that even the son-in-law, who later prayed and identified all that has been happening, began to see that it was not his wife's fault. It was a generational curse or a generational idol they refused to worship that has brought them into that, because they became bankrupt. So many evil things happened to them, and they stood their ground that no matter what happens, they will believe in God, the God Almighty, and not this God with a small g. The people in their community tried as much as possible to pull down Eka's children, because Eka was a very strong man, very influential, but very caring and accommodating. Took care of a lot of people in his community as a very rich man. But the community people did not pay the same goodness to his children when Eka passed, to the point that even his friends were making advances at Eka's children, female children, when he passed. So this went on after they got the liberation. Some of Eka's children who didn't take it seriously spiritually to meet the God Almighty, they didn't believe that any of this could affect them. But as time went on, one of the sons, Eka's sons, who is outside the country, had an encounter where he saw Eka appear to him. One of the times he was very, very broke, and the school fees, he couldn't even afford it. Eka met him in the dream and told him, take this little money with you, clothe children with it, use the money you have, send it for clothing. And Eka's son saw that as an opportunity to sow into the less privileged, which he did through the help of a mutual friend, family friend. But immediately Eka's son sent that money for them to buy those clothes for the less privileged. Eka's son got a mail from his school saying that the last examination he wrote, he became tops, overall best, and the dean of their faculty had given him scholarship till he finishes his master's degree to PhD. And that was how Eka's son scaled through that. While he was there, it wasn't up to 40 minutes, Eka's son received another call and said that the VC of the school, the VC of the school had given him presidential, they call it presidential scholarship. So he got double scholarship just because of the move he did when he saw Eka, his father, in that dream, and he told him what to do. Say, give this money to the less privileged. That was what the son did. Right now, Eka's children now began to understand that the God they have decided to serve was bigger and more powerful than the small God their father did refuse to worship. As many people in his community have said that the reason Eka died was because Eka refused to worship that their God, which is a snake. The God comes to their environment, to their houses, to their business places, disguised in a snake. And because they understand the history, when they see the snake, they either kill it or chase it away. And the good thing is that each time the children of Eka kills this snake, the snake does not give them any bad luck, or it doesn't harm them because they believed in God.